Hey, Bastich B here for 64K and welcome to episode number 24 of Pop Culture Quick Bytes. And welcome back. So on today's episode we're going to have a look at issue number 1 of Zzap Amiga. This was released at the end of October 2021. So if you lived outside of Europe in the 80s or didn't have access to European magazines, then Zzap 64 was a Commodore 64 publication. They used to do reviews of games and hardware and everything to do with the C64, but it was mainly video game focused. As you can see here, it says C64 and Amiga. In the later years, this is a 1989 issue, my original one. In the later years, the Amiga was added there because they were reviewing as much Amiga games as Commodore 64 games, because the popularity was rising. So hence the subtitle there. This was a magazine that people loved, and it's one of the best C64 publications, at least in my opinion. It was like right up there with my favorites, like Commodore User and this one. I used to read it all the time. So this new Zzap Amiga keeps the style exactly the same as the classic Zzap 64. Obviously this is just focused on the Amiga in the modern era, covering modern games, modern peripherals you can use for the system, and a little bit of retro stuff. And for a size comparison, you can see this is in the A5 format. It's a lot smaller than the original, but this keeps in with the trend of modern gaming magazines coming back. This is the Zzap 64, the new one. Same format, Free 64 is also the same. So this magazine is 60 pages long. I'm assuming that's going to be every issue. It's got quality print from Fusion Retro as per usual. This magazine is also going to be quarterly, not monthly, and I think that's a good idea, and I'll explain later why I think that's a good idea. But before we go any further, let's take a look at the front cover in a lot more detail.
And here it is, the cover for issue number 1. It's very reminiscent of classic Zzap covers from the beginning. I think it's a nice ode. You can see there's got reviews for new games like Turbo Sprint. And on the back cover we've got an advert for Bitmatsoft. These are the UK company that publishes a lot of Commodore 64 and new Amiga games, so definitely check those guys out. It's got a discount there as well.
And now let's start digging into the magazine.
And here's the contents page. It's set up exactly the same way as the new Zzap 64. I really like this article on Bullfrog Productions. The Time I Visited is a cool Amiga CD32 article. And you got the Return of the White Wizard, one of my favorites from the original Zzap. And you got all the reviews down below.
Okay, so let's check out the review format now. If you're unfamiliar with the old Zzap 64, you won't know their style. I'll give you a little example of what it's like.
And here's a review example of Tiny Bubble, a fan remake of Bubble Bubble. At top you got all the basic information. This is more the making of stuff and background info. You always get 2 reviews from 2 different people, which is always great. And then in the bottom right you got Zzap's review scores. It's very traditional. They review it on presentation, graphics, sound, hookability, lastability, and an overall percentage. It's very traditional, and you know exactly what you're getting, which I really like.
So once again, the writing in this magazine is really good. It's on par with the Zzap 64, the new Zzap 64. A lot of the writers from that one are also in this one. So it keeps the format going, it keeps the same sort of style. If you're used to that and you like that, you're really going to like the way it's written. And on that note, let me show you a few of my favorite articles from this issue. I'm not going to show all of them, I'm just going to show a few of my favorites.
This Bullfrog production one is very interesting. It's the creation of Bullfrog itself from the beginning. It's going to be an ongoing series. This is part 1. The other one I liked is The Time I Visited the CD32 launch. It's taken from the point of view of Commodore Force magazine and their coverage of the launch. Got plenty of other fan favorites. I love the adverts in here as well. The Amiga Adventure is basically the same as the White Wizard. And Zzap Flash is always my favorite. You got Lost Vikings 2 there upcoming. And that Proxima 3 shoot 'em up looks absolutely fantastic. I can't wait for that.
So overall, I think this is a pretty good first issue. It's on par with the new Zzap 64 in terms of writing, in terms of layout and look, in terms of quality of the print is exactly the same. So if you do like that, then you're definitely going to like this if you're an Amiga fan. The reason I said earlier that I think it's a good idea that this is quarterly instead of monthly is because if you look over here, there's only 4 reviews for new Amiga games. I don't think there's enough new Amiga games coming out, you know, now. There's a lot in production and there's a lot being made, but you know, when they actually get released is another story. So in that respect, releasing this quarterly is a good idea. There's not enough new games to fill out this on a monthly basis, not by a long shot. I also hope in the future that they'll do a little bit more of a balance of like older stuff as well as the newer stuff, because there's so many great old Amiga games that could be highlighted in here that people missed and stuff like that. So I think it'd be a cool idea to have maybe a couple of you know, segments that deal with like the older stuff as well as the new. Another interesting idea, which I'm sure they probably already thought of, is whether they're going to introduce demo discs just like they did with the new Zzap 64. That would be pretty cool. You could put like old Amiga demos, new Amiga demos, or upcoming games on there. That would be nice. Physical form would be awesome as well. So even with the abundance of new fanzines that are out there for retro systems, and I think there are a lot, maybe a little bit too much at this point, I think this is still worth it. It's pretty cheap, £3.99. Convert that to whatever currency you're using, and it's pretty cheap for something that's coming out quarterly. If this was monthly, you know, and you've got multiple other ones, then you know it could get costly. But you know, £3.99 for quarterly, pretty decent. The shipping is also super cheap because, you know, it's very thin, it doesn't weigh much even though it's coming from the UK, so I think this is a pretty good deal. And that's it. I'll leave links in the description so you can find the magazine, and thanks for joining me, Bastich B at 64K. I hope you had a good time, and if you can please like and subscribe, I'll be greatly appreciated, and I'll see you next time. Cheers.